Hello all, this is Matt from That here to show off one of Quine's recipes, the Ethereum tag propagation recipe. So if you go on over to quine.io, click onto recipes, you will see an array of recipes that we are hosting that show off a lot of Quine's different features. But we will be checking out the Ethereum tag propagation recipe today. To get a copy of it, you can open up this purple window and click on the copy button, or you can click on the download recipe button to get your copy. If you'd like to download a copy of Quine, click on the download button on top, and you can download it using this big blue button right here, the download jar file button. If I move on over to VS Code, you'll see that I've already downloaded the recipe file. And this recipe does a few things. It has a couple of ingest streams, one which ingests the block head data, and another which ingests mine transaction data. And this helps create a graph with showing the chain of blocks in the blockchain. We'll also see transactions showing money moving from account to account. Really cool though is this standing query, which will allow you to mark funds as tainted and to see where those funds can flow in the graph. To run the recipe, we'll use Java and we'll invoke it with the jar file we downloaded, Quine version 1.6.4, and we're telling it to use the recipe that we just looked at. So let's run this. And we will see that the two ingest streams are started, the standing query is instantiated, and our server is available. And yep, new blockchain data shows up every 15 seconds. So here we have some data. Let's click on into Quine. And let's start off by looking at some of the block data. Let's look at the literal blockchain. So we'll use one of these sample queries. I'll run it. And here we have a chain already. We have this block here preceded by this block here. Let's move it on over here, and I'll actually freeze it here. And we can see this block here was preceded by this block that we don't have any data on yet because this block was created before we started our ingest stream. We see that this is the account that mined this block. It also mined this block too, and these are the transactions for this block. Let's look at all the graph connections for this block, and we see similar things. And then we can just continue moving on down the chain. The next block, the transactions in that block. The next block, the transactions in that block. Pretty cool. And we have the blockchain right here. We can even see some transactions in it. Let's look at this last block. Well, the second to last block, and we'll look at the transactions in it. I don't want to see too many. Let's look at 4. And here we go. We have some transactions here, and these transactions have accounts that flow funds from one account to another, and that's what these transactions represent. If we open up these, we will see a from account and a to account. Pretty cool. So let's actually clear this graph. And what I really want to show off is that standing query. So what we can do is we can actually grab some accounts that have transactions. Let's grab like 5. And let's move it on over to the left side of our graph. And let's just arrange it nicely. And while we're doing this, what we're going to try to do is we're going to mark some funds in one of these accounts as tainted. And we're going to see if we can track the flow of these accounts from one account to another. Here we are monitoring for tainted funds. And if let's say I tainted this top one here, mark as tainted, we will see from this account, it transferred money to all these other different accounts. But not just that, if we look at where we ran Quine, we see that we got a bunch of standing query hits. These are all the accounts that are marked as tainted from the original account. And what's interesting is we're still listening for accounts. If we're patient enough, maybe we'll see the graph grow as transactions occur in real time with tainted funds flowing from these accounts to more. While we're waiting, why don't we just mark a few more funds as tainted while we see if we can observe some changes in our graph. So I will mark this as tainted. I'll mark this as tainted. And I can just mark all of these as tainted as well. And we can just continue watching and observing the graph to see live as tainted funds flow from one account to another. Let's wait a little bit until we see some of that action. And that's really cool. So in real time, we saw funds flow from one account and grow the graph with new tainted funds being rendered in the graph. And there we go again. Very, very cool. This recipe shows in real time how Quine can consume data and render meaningful data in the graph. In this case, that data was tainted funds flowing from one account to another. If you'd like to give this recipe a shot, move on over to Quine.io, head on over to our recipes, and pick whichever recipe seems most interesting to you. Thank you so much, and again, this is Matt. From that. Thank you very much.